Well, thank you for having me, Colin. Great to be here.
So, it's interesting. All my friends, Saturday night, we're all on FaceTimes. We're going crazy on this trade, and everybody's like, man, they gave up all these first-round picks. But it's interesting. If you look at the scouting department for the Rams, they have done a really good job. Second, third, fourth, fifth, starters everywhere. So it tells me, A, they were over Goff, but it also tells me the Rams have incredible confidence in their scouting department to give up first-round picks. That's my takeaway on it. What was your takeaway on it?
Well, I think that they had to give away the picks in the first place because in order to unload that contract, the Goff contract, you were going to have to give up a lot in return. So they've done a good job. They've had to use all methods of player acquisition, Colin. So, yes, they've done a fair job in the middle rounds and in the second round, third round. They've done a fair job. But again, let's remember the best player on their football team was a first-round pick in Aaron Donald back in 2014. So it's a dangerous way to build your roster. They trust their system, but we're going to see how this goes. Part of the fact is they keep going in, right? In 2018, the Rams had to go all in and make some trades and sign some free agents, spend a lot of cash in order to get players and make some trades. So as much as they have confidence in their drafting acumen, I think that there's also this realization that they have to go outside of the draft to acquire players that are going to be good enough to help them win, or compete for a championship.
Now, listen, we know Matt Stafford's talented. He was the #1 high school player. He was great at Georgia. I watched him for 3 years. I've watched him in the NFL. But I said this last week. There are players that I hear about their talent. I use Tracy McGrady in the NBA. I heard for years he was better than Kobe, he was better than Michael, and I'm like, he never won a playoff series. Chris Paul aesthetically doesn't have the glamour, the hops. Chris Paul just wins everywhere. At some point, you got to win games. Stafford is talented. But, Scott, I'm over it. Okay, I got 12 years, 4 winning seasons. I'm not even asking him to beat Aaron Rodgers or the Super Bowl. Just beat the Bears. And, Scott, I'm a little worried he has struggled to win big games. Is that a fair criticism?
It's a fair question. I don't know if it's a fair criticism yet because we're going to find out in the next couple of years whether or not it's an actual fair criticism. Because, again, if you look at some of the dysfunction that has existed in Detroit, and that's not, trying to cover up all of the mistakes that Matthew has made at different times. He is a very talented quarterback. I think he's a winner as a person. I think he gets it. Everything that I've seen of him, I think he has a chance. He has had a lot of difficulty in terms of the team he's been surrounded with. And again, also, Colin, the truth is stability within an organization is such a critical thing, especially for young quarterbacks. And a lot of his youth was wasted by a lot of instability. So, again, I hear the questioning and the criticism, but I think we're going to find out right now real soon.
So, there's always been this. I remember talking, Scott Pioli joining us, 5-time exec of the year. There was this. I talked to a college athletic director once, and he said, listen, if my coach wants another job, I don't want him in the building. And I thought, well, you got a contract. Keep him in the building if he's a great coach. And I think to myself, Deshaun Watson's like out. He is emotionally gone. If you ran that franchise, do you just try to save it, get 4 first-round picks and a good player? Do you want him in the building?
I try to save it, Colin. I mean, I try to save the player and keep the player. Because, again, you just made a really important point. 6 months ago, Deshaun Watson signed a contract. He consciously made a decision to be with an organization that had leadership at the top in terms of ownership and the other leaders, that he accepted a contract to make him the second highest paid player in the history of the game. So, again, those are the rules of engagement in the National Football League. He signed the contract, as Hyman Roth said in Godfather 2, this is the business we've chosen. This is the choice that he made. This is the business he's chosen. Those are the rules of engagement. You don't say, do-over, I want out now. Now, I say that from a business perspective, but then there's the reality and the nuance of the relationship. And I know David Culley. I know Nick Caserio. I hired Nick Caserio in 2001 as an entry-level scout. David and Nick are two of the finest people I've met in my 27 years in the National Football League. Deshaun Watson is also one of the most incredible people. I think and I hope that at some point Deshaun gets a grip of his emotions and says, let me show a little bit of grace here because I have this obligation. Let me see if I can coexist with this new leadership? Because it sounds to me, Colin, that his beef is with the people that are outside of Nick and David. And truthfully, the people that are going to have the greatest influence over him and this franchise in the coming years are Nick and David Culley. So that's my quick take on it.
Scott Pioli joining us. I've had this theory for years. Joy always laughs at me. I say, the male ego ruins dynasties. You know, everybody wants credit, and you know, that's just the way it works, right? It's everybody gets rich, and now everybody wants credit. I saw the Lakers. You know, you got Riley and Phil Jackson and Jerry West, and they're all brilliant. And you know, you see it just blows up. So I look at New England, and I know Belichick's great. I'm not disputing that, but the more they've won, the more power he's exerted in personnel. And it's impossible to be a great GM and a great coach. They're just two incredibly difficult jobs. And I look at Matt Stafford, according to a story, saying, I'll go anywhere except New England. And I think to myself, Scott, Brady made that system look really darn nice. But you take Brady out of it, and it's cold, and it's outdoors, and they don't spend big money, and they have no weapons. Do we have to be a little honest here? We know Belichick's great. I'm not disputing that. Yeah. But he has too much damn power in that organization now, and he needs to relinquish some of it.
You know, it's interesting. I want to go back to the first part of what you were leading into, Colin, is one of my favorite sayings of all time is success has many fathers and failure is an orphan. I think when JFK said it, he said failure is a bastard. But there's so much truth to that. And keeping egos in check and keeping people you know, and I'll tell you this, for this franchise, for what they've done, I know people are trying to make this now, was it Bill, was it Brady? And to me, I hate hearing that conversation because it was one of the greatest runs in the history of sports. And to me, it's insulting to both of the parties involved to get into that conversation. Was it more Bill? Was it more Brady? And why can't we just embrace that it was one of the greatest partnerships? This is the most team-oriented game, I believe, in all of sports.
Yeah.
And to force people, you know, again, I don't mean to digress here, but this is one of the greatest problems we have in our country is the divisiveness. And why can't we just enjoy and embrace the unity that was something special and just say, hey, you know, they both served one another so well. Bill is the greatest coach of all time. Tommy's the greatest quarterback of all time, and just leave it at that.
God, I wouldn't have a show then. Jeez, Dave, Scott, I wouldn't have content.
Yeah, you would. You're too smart. Come on.
All right, Scott Pioli, NFL Network analyst. Pleasure to have you on the show. I'd love to have you on again. Thanks so much, Scott.
Please do, Colin. I'd love to be back. Thank you.
Thank you very much.